Hi everyone, in this video we'll be designing this texture in Substance Designer. I usually use this for some sort of impacts I need. So as you can see here, I've got this impact and I've got this texture, spiky texture let's call it, displayed a couple times upon impact. Alright, so we're just gonna dive into Substance next and we're just gonna create that texture from scratch. So I'm gonna start with polygon. Here I'm gonna select 3 sides, zoom in, and next I just wanna offset this slightly. So I'm gonna use transformation. I'm gonna rotate the whole image by 90 degrees and just scale it back down slightly. I wanna get rid of the tiling, so tiling mode absolute and change it to no tiling. And now I've just got a simple triangle. So I'm gonna use a trapezoid. Transform grayscale to create a bit more interesting shapes. I'm gonna scratch the top slightly and I'm just gonna plug this shape into the splatter circular. I'm gonna replug it into the pattern input 1, get rid of that thing, and in here I'm gonna change the pattern to my image input. Cool. Let's scale it up slightly. Okay, I'm gonna play with those scales as well. I'm gonna play with the random scales. Change the radius and now play with the global scale. Okay, we also have this spread here, so I'm just gonna change it to a low value, something like maybe 0.4. I think we've got maybe too many patterns, so I'm just gonna put 7 here and hopefully it's gonna create an interesting shape. I'm gonna scroll where we have global offset and just try to center it slightly, maybe here. Next I'm gonna go back to my scaling, try to get slightly better scales. Okay, global offset to move it, and I don't like this part, so I'm just gonna try to get rid of it. So I need to maybe get tile sampler and I'm gonna blend it with our texture. I'm gonna set it to subtract and I'm gonna work on the patterns next. So here I'm just gonna change it to disk. For the amount I'm gonna go for something lower, so maybe 7 by 7. I'm gonna go to position random as well and randomize it. As you can see, we're getting those holes now. So I'm gonna create a mask, so that will be my gradient. I'm gonna rotate it by 90 degrees and I'm gonna get histogram scan to create that kind of mask. I'm gonna plug it into the mask input and to the tile sampler, scroll down where I have a mask map threshold, set it to 1, and now we're only affecting that area where the mask is. Obviously this is tiling, so we can see some of the circles pop in here. So I'm just gonna select this one twice, sampler once, and then I'm gonna go where we have scale and try to get a better look. So I'm just gonna slightly increase the scale of it, and as you can see we're erasing that part of that texture. So I'm going to go to my histogram scan now, play with that value, see if I can make this only to affect this area, the end of that spiky texture. It is, and now I just maybe need a slightly different offset for the position. So I'm just going to play with that one. Okay, so I think that looks a lot better. And next I'm going to use transform to rotate it, because I want this to point up. And I'm gonna use trapezoid transform grayscale to create a better shape. Obviously you're gonna get rid of the tiling And as you can see, now we're having something that is actually pointing up. So I'm just gonna keep it like this. It might be a good idea maybe now to get a transform and increase it in size if you want. However, I'm just gonna maybe continue, and I'm gonna get another trapezoid, scale it slightly, and this one I need to transform because I will be subtracting those two. Okay, and that goes into a blend. And I'm gonna get another transform here in case I want to create some offset. And that's gonna be on subtract. I'm gonna select this transform by clicking on it once and just gonna move that pattern slightly down to create a bit more interesting shape. And in here, you can see I'm just gonna scale this one slightly down and at the bottom as well. And that's gonna create that kind of shape. Okay, so I think we've got main shape for the impact, I think. Next, I'm gonna get slope blur. I'm gonna get gradient as well to create a slightly blurry shape, kind of like a motion blur at the bottom of it. You can play with the gradient by rotating it maybe 180 just to see what it does, but I'm just gonna keep it at 0 actually, because I quite like what it does to that texture. I'm gonna get another slope blur, and I'm gonna get shape as well because I need that soft circle, and that maybe hopefully is gonna give me some really cool blur as well. I think it's a little bit maybe too much, so I'm gonna increase the sample and change the intensity of it just to keep it low. I would like to have maybe some glow around it as well, so I'm just gonna get a blur grayscale. Probably gonna use a slightly higher value for this, and I'm gonna try to blend those two together now. And I'm gonna set it maybe to max, and as you can see, we're getting this nice blur around our main texture. I'm gonna blur it, the whole texture again, just slightly to get rid of the very harsh and hard edges. And I'm gonna get a gradient map. Try to put some colors in here just to see if it's gonna look okay. So that one. And this is what we have. Also might be a good idea to get a glow here and play with those settings if you want this to be slightly to have a bit more glow built into it. You can also change the color of the glow if you want. And then you can either desaturate that texture and you get a grayscale. However, I kind of don't like what the substance is doing here. So I'm usually just testing colors for the purposes of how it might look in the end. But I'm just usually exporting that texture because it's got a lot better gradients in my opinion. However, let's just add some trapezoid as well and try to build slightly better looking pointy shape. So in here, oops, we can create this maybe, and maybe that one on minus value, like -0.5. So I think that looks slightly better. Another thing would be to play with that transform that we are extracting, maybe bring it slightly down so we get a bit more data here. And I think that is our impact texture. One thing I would like to add is that you can actually go back now to the very beginning of this graph when we have this initial trapezoid, and you can maybe play with those settings and see how they're gonna affect your texture. So for example, without any top stretch, we're getting this very nice zigzaggy shape. However, this one introduces a bit more spiky texture as well. So I think it depends what you want and what you need. I'm gonna end up maybe somewhere in the 0.3 value because I think I'm getting really nice thick line here, and I've got those spikes as well. All right, so I think that's our impact texture. I hope you enjoyed it. and thank you so much for watching.